Hey guys, it's Matt, and Zara is going to join us maybe. Come here, Zara. I want to talk about, and I'm so frustrated with a reality that is so absurdly artificial that to us, to anybody with a shred of common sense, just gives itself away time after time as being so unnatural, so absurd, so artificial. Um, Hi, Zara. How you doing? Look, there are so many different ways and areas that quote reality gives itself away to us now that it's 2023 that nobody notices. I mean, stalled century is just one. In this video, I want to talk about how we never get any wins in any area. And I'm not talking about wins in terms of the types of things that we investigate or our type of researcher, because at this point, I don't think anybody here expects a win. It's just, it does give away reality itself to a degree that all of the hundreds of things we've looked into, triple layer conspiracies, not one is ever broken in our favor. Okay, we know there's something going on with reality itself. We're never going to get that kind of a win, considering who we are, the type of people we are, who we or what we investigate, what we can see, etc. And somebody's screaming at me saying, "Well, who's going to if there were whistleblowers that came forth and said these conspiracy researchers in this area were right, who's going to talk about it on the news anyway? Are you going to bring that to Anderson Cooper and he's going to say, "Thank you, come right in, sit down. What can we put on the news for you tonight?" Of course, there's no way they would talk about it anyway. But I'm not just talking about what we research. I'm talking about the asshole down the street, the people down the street, the guy in the cul-de-sac, your Aunt Ginny, my friend Tony, your fill in the blank. They don't notice the stalled nature of this ridiculous reality that gives itself away week after week. There's so many millions of things we could talk about. Never ever. The easy one is no cures. And by the way, I forgot to do this. I want to thank anybody that sent me a special note, an email, or comment about the banner ad that I got not 2 videos back, 2 days back. I got a banner ad, and in the video, I didn't even talk about the C. All I said was the two letters. The Sesame Street sponsored C, pause. The Sesame Street sponsored V, pause. I said the letters. There was no segment 2 videos back that would warrant a banner ad taking somebody the proper information that Dr. F provides. I didn't even talk about it. I think I just said the letters. It must have been a glitch because I don't think that's gonna keep happening. I don't think we have to adjust the hobo code. And as many people have informed me, the bot, it knows what we're talking about anyway, hobo code or not. Somehow it still seems to allow the videos to load if the right hobo code is used, maybe for its own amusement. What we were talking about in terms of, I mean, stalled century by itself and the symptoms of stalled century give this reality away. But the regular people should notice there are never any wins. The easiest way to see that, and we've talked about this before, so it'll be very quick, no cures. No cures whatsoever. Um, no cures if you're 50 something years old, 60 something years old. What has been cured in your lifetime, sir, with all this wondrous technological advancement? They tell us that your Galaxy phone and the iPhone 4000 in your pocket is hundreds of millions of times more powerful than what NASA had access to when they built their toasters in 1969. What is all these wondrous university research centers and grants and high tech where you walk through laser fields to get in and all this stuff, the universities, University of Michigan, Penn State, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, they're getting hundreds of millions of dollars a year in grants. What has it led to? Where are the wins in terms of making people feel better? Cures? Then that's nothing. No, but okay, we see it, but how come the people around us don't see it? It's not that there's no, okay, half the cancers, look, okay, between you and me, if anybody was firing rubber duckies, of course they have them. I don't want another banner ad. They have them, sure they do, of course they do. The purpose of this video is, why doesn't my friend Tony or your friend, why don't they notice this stuff why don't they say, what's going on here? This iPhone 50,000 is supposed to have so much technology and I can carry it in my pocket. There was all these cures of certain things in the last century. There were wins in this regard in the last century. Well, we had nothing today. No, the same cancers, same heart disease, same issues, Lyme disease. Not only are there the same problems and ailments, and none of it's been cured, there are exponentially more of them. You'll watch a damn drug commercial, and it will half the drug commercials are for like conditions and shit we never heard of. Well, that's a new ailment? They're supposed to be curing all this shit over here, but that's a new ailment. It's like, what was it? I mean, literally shit you've never heard of, which means there's more ailments, problems, and things people have that need a drug. If you have the condition of monoclastial palastial condition A type 1, then here's a new drug called Plaxitesto. What the fuck's that? So who has that condition? I don't think that existed in the 70s. I mean, I go 70s and 80s. So it's like, well, that's new, and it's so strange, and you don't know what it is. One of the things that I think when I see these drug commercials is how many people have these conditions? Where the drug companies spending what they say, oh, it's always billions of dollars for R&D, Matt, and development. That's why the drug companies are allowed to spend so much because they have to recoup all the billions that they've. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. And so let's just say it's all real, and they spent the billions and hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising. How many people have that strange condition that we never heard of? Five. Five. Look, I'm pretty sure there's a reason why this reality has to put forth so many different drugs. I am very convinced that many of these drugs are not making a profit, put it that way. I don't want to get. What do you mean you don't want to get too conspiratorial, Matt? What the hell is this channel for? Who do you think's? I always do that. I always think, well, there could be like two people listening, two nice people, and we can just bring them gently and softly into the fold in terms of what we research. It's not going to happen. I hear you guys. It's not going to happen. There's no reason to pull any punches. A lot of the weird drugs, we've never heard of the condition, we've never heard of the drug, we don't understand it. To me, there's no possible way that that company is making money. It's almost like the reality itself has to generate as many problems, ailments, and drugs as possible. And as we've looked at before, there is no need for money. Okay, that's a first grade truth or mistake. If the not milk reality wants to accomplish something, or it has a certain goal or aim, money is not a factor. Okay, I mean, this is just given away. The reality gives itself away all day long. 4 or 5 years ago, I went out looking for a job. My insurance brokerage that I started in 2007, I was making 3 or 4 YouTube videos a week, and as we know, putting yourself out in terms of the types of things that we research and then trying to run a legitimate business, it doesn't go together. Okay, Matt, you're blaming what you researched and blaming your YouTube channel and your failed business. You just was a lazy son of a bitch, or you were incompetent. Call me incompetent. Whatever it was, the business wasn't doing too well as of 2013 or 2014. So I said, okay, I got to start. I got to go back, and what am I supposed to do, right? I got bills, at the house. I've been moved in here in 2002. I don't live like a real Robin Leach type lifestyle. I don't do anything, but it's still expensive to maintain a car, cats, house. Like, okay, I got to go back into a cube somewhere. I don't need to make that much money. I have a very solid resume from what I used to do in the insurance job when they shipped me out to Los Angeles and San Francisco in 1996. So I think, okay, with my resume, I don't need to make a ton of money. Go back, get a cubicle job, push TPS reports around, and get health insurance, whatever. Okay. So I start looking. To make a long story short, I used all the services up for, like Indeed service and all that, Monster.com. It went nowhere. I'm to go right to the punchline. When these companies run a background check on me or a social credit score because of what I've been doing in this YouTube channel for now at least 13 years, with the other channel was called Texas Shrug. It's literally like, I don't know, Charles Manson category. It's Charles Manson scoring regarding my social credit score. So nothing came out of these services. And I start to question, is this because of what I've been doing on YouTube? Anyway, oh, well, no. Eventually I'll get some cubicle job. I'll just go directly to the horse's mouth. I'm just a few minutes, I'll wrap this up. We'll get back to what we're talking about. So I went to Google Maps and I said, okay, these are the top 100 office parks in the area or corporations. Again, I'm just looking to push TPS reports around stick to myself and get a paycheck. I hadn't had a, you start your own little brokerage, it's just cold call, 2007, cold calling. So at the time, that sort of like consistency or Linus blanket is somewhat appealing when you just constantly like thinking about where your next paycheck's going to come from. You're starting your own business. Okay. So map them out, the top 100 office parks and companies. And out of these top 100, in this area, this is King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, Exton, Malvern, Paoli is down here, Bryn Mawr, over here is Thorndale. Okay. It was like 60% were drug companies or some sort of little startup with a phase one or phase two trial, and the other was just computers. I don't know what again, I don't really know much about computers. Something to do with the web or servers. And I thought, okay, if this was San Jose and just north of me was Sunnyvale and Cupertino and Silicon Valley, but some two-bit place that's just a few miles out from where red state Pennsylvania starts. Between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, it's very red state very quickly. Between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, it's very gun show very quickly. You don't know whether you're in the middle of Ohio, Pennsylvania, or what. Pennsylvania, that's what we say. Pennsylvania, sorry. So 60 to 70% is drug and computers in this area. And I thought, well, let's just say that's the case in hundreds of other areas or a thousand other. I mean, how many drugs are being produced? And Matt, you need to understand that a lot of these companies have phase one trials and they never move forward to phase two. But who's sponsoring all this? Where's the money coming from? Okay, I understand not every single of these little drug companies in it with a phase two is going to get. Matt, don't you know they need to get approved by the FDA? Oh no, I never heard that before. But still, where the $20 million come to start this company that's trying to get a drug to phase three or approved it. We're all over the place around here, including offshoots of large pharmaceuticals companies like Merck is over here, and Pfizer is in Collegeville, and GlaxoSmithKline's in Collegeville, and Teva Pharmaceuticals has a little office here. All this stuff for drugs. It's unnatural, guys. It just is unnatural. It's not. I understand a lot of people in this country take drugs, but the infrastructure behind it is 10 times too large for the amount of people that even take drugs, if that's even makes sense. And then all this computer nonsense. Like, what could this computer company be doing? And then this one, and then this one. Okay, most people that work in an office, you have some sort of Apple or Windows. I understand certain industries like hospital systems, they need computer experts that can code for their hospital billing, for the complexity of Obamacare and all that stuff. Okay, but it just was too many of them. And I'm just saying outside my front door here, this one area. So it was so unnatural. And whether it be some strange hocus pocus, some reality breakdown, mystical explanation, or simple explanation between the bookends that there is never any concern about money. The Fed, the Treasury, whatever, they're going to print up as much as they need to maintain this Potemkin village, this false infrastructure where everybody, at least at this time, in a long history that they have planned out, everybody has a job. And what people come forth and they've said in the past to me, these industries, Matt, yeah, like 70%, it's a Potemkin village. It's just a front. It doesn't need to exist. All of these startup drug companies that they might go phase two and phase three, and they might never get their drug into the FDA, but the money came from somewhere to start it up. And people had jobs for 10 years while their drugs were in trials. And the 5 or 10 people that started it up, they still walk away with millions. It's all a Potemkin village, and it is. And I found this out big time when I start. So to make the long story short, I started going directly to these companies because they'll post their jobs. Oh, here's a human resources job or insurance job. Oh, I should be able to get that easily. It's a low level. Everything I sent in, nothing, no word back and to wrap the whole thing. I had to go to a temp agency. I was like, I just need a job. This is before, I never had all the videos I ever posted to YouTube. I never ran an ad. I just would not take that sick, tainted money. Never ran an ad. I didn't know, people could contribute $3 or $5 a month and you could do this. I didn't know. I mean, I know people that did what I did was they were demonetized, and I was like, well, I never monetized anyway. I don't care. I just keep making my videos. So I don't know. This is probably 4 to 5 years ago. Um, Sending these resumes in, and some it's 20 minutes, to do the online application. Some are much easier, but some was never heard a word back. And I talked to a few people, and they were like, "You've heard this story before. I'll wrap it up, guys." They said, you're here, okay, you don't have a parking ticket, you've never been convicted of this, that looks good, that looks good, and then they run this social. They probably tap into the Chinese. They pro- they probably tap into the Chinese social credit score, and this just they didn't even realize the speaker was in their computer. Holy! There's an applicant, Matthew McKinley. Not only should he not be given an interview, delete all files, get rid of this. We don't even want his name on our. It was like something like that. So I've talked to people since, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, you've considering what you've done here, um, you'll never be able to. Not that. Not. Do you think I'm gonna go well, at this point? Of course, I'm not gonna want to go back and work at a corporation. But anyway, guys, let me collect my thoughts and make sure I talk about the important things I wanted to talk about. All right, let me just wrap up the no cures, and then we'll move on. Um, Cancers, heart disease, two types of diabetes, things that have, the things that really do plague people, not drug conditions and commercials about things we've never heard of. Here's how many, let me just present to you how many cures we have in this wonderful age of incredible modern technological advancement, where you have 400 million times the computing power in your pocket than a buzzed Cauldron had in 1969, of which he flew around in a toaster. You have university research parks from Harvard in the east to Stanford in the west with hundreds of millions of dollars of grants. Here's what they've produced in terms of cures. It's a long list of nothing. It's Metroid. Absolutely nothing. And we start to talk about this at a picnic with our family, and they think we're crazy. Wait, hundreds of billions of dollars spent, Matt, in 40 years, and you would expect a cure? What's wrong with you? Are you one of those people? Okay, it's slightly frustrating at this time. Cancers, yes, yes, one last time, they do have them. They just don't give them. But there will always be walks. We'll always have Paris. You won't, don't expect your cures, but you will always have your walks for the cure, where you can spend your $90 for your cheap ass t-shirt that will fall apart after 5 washes, and you could have your corporate logos all over the back. Like, I don't want to advertise for these companies. I spent $90 so I don't have to advertise. For, come on, Matt, take one for the team. We're all in it together. These corporations spent $1 more than you did, so they're going to get you. You don't get your name on the back of the T-shirt, but this corporation gets its name on the back of your T-shirt that you're going to advertise for them for free because it spent $1 more to help us out than you did. But you get a bagel and cream cheese at the end of your walk. That corporation don't get it, no bagel with cream cheese. So, we'll continue to collect our walk t-shirts and the people around us. Nobody will question why nothing ever changes, why the pink shows up every year in the NFL in October. And they have their pink gloves and their pink towels, and some of the D-backs wear their pink shoes, and nothing changes. The main premise I don't want to get away from this video is there are no wins across the board to write home about in this stalled century. Again, the old century. All right, I'm gonna I'm gonna pick a fight here with it. There's a certain segment of our community that is so hardcore. Now, there's not. Let me just back up. There's not too many people that think the world is more fake than me. I can actually say that in that regard. I don't have to say cake in a lake. And to Jen, I think it was that gave me the diagram. You know, Wayne will tell you it takes me a while sometimes I will use it. I appreciate you. She drew up cake in a lake for us, and we're going to use that. There's not too many people in this world that think the world is more fake than I do. Okay, but there's a whole hardcore segment in our community that makes me look normal and tame. I mean, things I just do not understand. First of all, I'd love to stray and get back and talk about Trump for a second because of some of the comments. I will come back to this. There were actually still some Trump supporters here at this channel, and were like really upset at me for talking about or mentioning what I've mentioned many times in the past. I don't understand how it's fathomable, if that's even a word, that anyone in our community could say support Trump when everybody here should see how 100% artificial, fake, Potemkin village, whatever word you want to insert, the entire political system is fake. If somebody is running for Senate, president, whatever, it's they're actors. They work for other concerns. There's nobody legitimately trying to help you and I in politics ever. But there's still a degree of people that, and I couldn't believe they're still here, that somehow Trump will is out there trying to fight for us or will come back. Like, well, okay, but he was here for 4 years, and can you send me the list of freedoms that were restored? Can you send me the list of the violations against the Bill of Rights that he took on and overturned? No mention of the things we've researched over the years, that things that I call the 7-Eleven job application for employment, the first 7-Eleven job application that took place or was submitted in 2001. Trump didn't mention it. What about the mall events and the school and everything? Space, Neil Armstrong, a buzzed, doesn't mention any of that. So somebody could be here at a channel like this, see all the quote things that we see in terms of the fake presentations, yet there's still a supporter of Trump. He doesn't mention anything that we've uncovered, but yet he's still working for us. I have no idea how that sort of, I'm going to be nice, how that one could hold both those belief sets at the same time. What the heck was I talking about before? Oh, okay. This is like I was going to, pick a little bit of a fight with this hardcore set of truthers. And it's not the same sort of truther, but I'll mention like a big win for medical in the last century was in the 20s, the advent of penicillin, antibiotics. And there are people that literally will come back to me and say they will classify it like a V. Now, look, in terms of people that question what a V is, I understand where you're coming from. I gotcha. Okay, it is awfully strange. The back of my damn Clorox wipes or whatever, it says kills 99% of this bacteria. Bot Clorox wipes on the back, bot the back of my Clorox wipes. It says it will kill the virus that causes this. It's like, well, wait a second. That whole term, even they don't say it's not alive, right? I mean, I have issues with that. I hear you. Okay, that is not as. But to come back and to say when there's literally hundreds of millions of proven applications, and in my own life, there's been hundreds of applications where an antibiotic absolutely did its job. I don't, I don't understand, you know, these types of truthers are not giving us the best name. I don't think that the Tran Paco Paco Taco Paco Army doesn't give us a good name. Matt, the weird shit you talk about doesn't give us a good name. I hear you, but okay. The last interaction I had with Matt, you're not going to go on and try to prove to us antibiotics were one thing. Um, the last cat that was put down was the Puss in Boots, put down 28 or 29 days apart. She started to reek her mouth, okay, reek with an infection, pus, and luckily the first vet misdiagnosed it. Thought it was a tooth issue. She had to, like Bootsy had all the teeth pulled. She thought, oh, we have to pull some teeth. Didn't really get in there. It was a more junior vet. I'm happy that she misdiagnosed it because the real vet, the great vet, would have gone into the mouth and said this is major. It was a tumor under the tongue. So I'm grateful because I had 3 more weeks with her. Matt, don't turn this into a damn cat video. 30 seconds or less. She was bleeding into her food as she ate, but it was a decent quality of life for 3 weeks. I mean, she was in some pain laying around, but she purred, and I was happy to have her for 3 more weeks. So I was glad for the misdiagnosis. But the point was associated with the blood, and that there was the smell, and it was horrible. And that's why the vet thought this is an abscess tooth or whatever. It just stunk up an entire room. Now, the day after, antibiotic shot, said, okay, come back for the dental surgery 3 weeks later. The antibiotic shot, the next morning, the smell was gone. had removed the infection. I mean, look, okay, Matt, stop. If there's some fringe group here, Matt, don't make half the video about it. So antibiotics in the 20s was a gigantic, gigantic win for all, quote, mankind. There are other hardcore segments of the truthers that will yell at me for mentioning things like the eradication of smallpox. No matter what you believe, it was eradicated. You're not going to go out and meet your girlfriend at the mall and don't come near me. I got the cowpox. That's what they had first. I got the small. It's not going to happen. Polio. Oh, Matt, don't you know that kid? Yeah, this is not my first rodeo. I'm aware of all the theories and every theory that you're aware of. I've been doing this a long time. Nevertheless, if you have any degree of open-mindedness, there were some medical wins and very significant ones, even in the last century. No $200 million labs in every university. No, computer technology. No microscopes that can see. It's just unfathomable to me. Matt, wrap it up because I hear you. It's frustrating. It really is frustrating. And then when you go to try to talk to somebody about it, they sense you're trying to go down that conspiracy route. They'll do the earmuffs like Vince Vaughn did in Old School. Don't say it in front of the kid, man. You can just say earmuffs. You can say anything, cock, balls. You could just they do earmuffs. Oh, Matt's doing the conspiracy thing again. The box they put us in, they've put us in a box where we can't even have legitimate conversations with the people around us because he's going to turn it into a conspiracy. It's incredible how well they've done against us. At this point, though, I don't. It is frustrating. It's fun to talk about, but I don't really care anymore in terms of the people that don't want to talk to me, that are around me. I don't give a shit anymore. So stamp your form, Sonny. Rehabilitated? That's just a word, so a man like you can wear a suit and have a job. So stamp your form, Sonny, and stop wasting my time, because frankly, I don't give a shit. Whatever Red said. And we need to work that. Somebody gave me a really great comment about that, where there's a lot of Shawshank Redemption is a gigantic reality truth drop, and I've mentioned it in little segments. I don't think I've ever gone through the whole thing, and I have broken down that scene. But somebody sent me a very interesting email. That scene is a reality truth drop, but somebody really stressed to me the not give a shit attitude is extremely important to adopt for us. Not like you don't care. I'm going to stop going to work. I'm going to stop brushing my teeth. Not in terms of like red, in terms of, and not just in terms of seeking its rewards, because it's somewhere in the middle. Somebody sent me a very interesting email. I'll try to remember exactly what it said, where only when Red went into that room trying to just didn't care anymore, stopped pleasing the parole board, he just didn't give a shit. He's going to say whatever he wants. Didn't even really want to get out because he saw what happened to Brooks. Then it's a similar principle of when you exit the bog and you exit your research and you put the Elmer Fudd rifle, you put your rifle up on your mantle, and I'm not hunting this shit anymore. I'm not chasing any bog. I'm not researching any conspiracy. Then, like I've said many times, the rabbits will come out of their hole and they'll want you to shoot them, and then eventually if you don't pay attention, they will jump up on your lap. The rabbits will jump up on your lap. It's a similar principle. As long as Red was going to beg that parole board, like representing reality itself, beg for its rewards, it was going to say screw you. As soon as Red was like, I don't give a shit, I'm out of here, whatever. He doesn't care. Then it was like the rabbit that wanted to jump up on Red's lap. If you see what I'm saying, pulled that. We talked about that analogy of exiting the bog and finally stopping the hunt for the rabbit holes a long time ago. It's designed. The entire reality is designed to get you to be an Elmer Fudd hunter of conspiracy. And then it generates conspiracy artificially in an impossible way that no real world could pull off. But again, I don't want to stray too much. The main point of this video is to talk more about Stalled Century, but all the ways it gives itself away in terms of how artificial it is. And one of the main ways, no matter whether your explanation for why there are no cures is between the bookends or another reason, at the end of the day, it's still the same thing. We should have, at least from the perspective of the guy down the cul-de-sac or my friend Tony, any reasonable person seeing the technology that's all around us, considering some of the things they quote cured, a few things in the prior century. Anybody with common sense would say 70, 80% of these major ailments should all be gone by now. They've known for 100 years why a shark, a bull shark or a great white shark or a tiger shark or hammerhead shark doesn't get cancer. Many types of fish or sharks, they don't get, they knew in 1940 why a shark doesn't get cancer. Now, look, do I know that? No, but this has been talked about for a long time. And Matt, they knew in 1950 how to translate that to a human. Sure, they did. Maybe not 1950, but 1980. And it's not that the drug companies came in and they flexed their muscles with politicians. No, it's all at the not milk screen level, where all these different systems and parts and component parts and parts of the engine are all working as a whole to do what the screen reality or the asshole dark or the not milk reality wants, which is the same two sentences to hide a human or a real person from their true nature. So we know those two sentences. Let's continue with what we were doing here. Let me collect my thoughts because I had some other things I wanted to mention. I have no clue what they are now. Okay, some of the other things I wanted to mention. The best way to start this segment is put it this way: if you ever get a chance to talk to somebody like I don't, the pendulum only swings in one direction all the time. It never swings back towards what you would call a win for the people. Now, this is unnatural. No real world could operate like this. So throw a dart in any single area, then it'll show you how the pendulum only swings, in one direction. When the government implements a new agency, does anybody think that agency can ever be disbanded? Or at some point, like let's just say, what did they put in 20 years ago? The Department of Homeland Security. And recently they put in the very important and prestigious Space Force that I was going to say that nobody knows what they do. We have an opinion on what they do or don't do, but I'm saying like the people around us, my friend Tony, they don't even know. They believe in it, but they don't even know what they do. But the point is, these administrative agencies or this new tentacle pops up on what you call a job of the Hut government. And of course, that's always 50 to 100 billion dollars and all this infrastructure build out and all this. Now, does anybody believe that any of these, any times it builds an arm or it builds a tentacle or another Hydra head pops out, will it ever go away? No. The pendulum only swings in one direction. In other words, if the world were real, you would get these sorts of announcements. Not often, but once every 10 years, let's just say the federal level, the government would come out and say, you know what? We care about taxpayer money. These four agencies are completely being eliminated. I know this is not a great example. It's one example of thousands of pendulums drop it. No, you drop the pendulum, it should go out, it should come back, right? At least eventually. Matt, in terms of government, eventually we should get a win. The point of this video is we never get anything. So government comes out and says, we're eliminating this part of government, or just getting rid of this, or just slashing this. Never happens. Or at the local level, the city, is it possible? Think about this. Possible the city of Philadelphia, once in 40 years, would come out and say, we actually collected too much money this year, and we can either give it back to you taxpayers, or we can put it into Fairmount Park and these other millions of dollars into these parks and beautify 10% of the city with this money. You guys go out and vote. I mean, look, do I expect that to be the norm? I'm saying no matter how corrupt, no matter how low, fiddle and bends low these politicians are, at some point, we would get something back. And I'm saying why it's not 99% to 1%. It's never, the pendulum never comes back in anything you would consider a win for the people. It gives away the nature of screen reality itself. I don't understand, even if people don't investigate what we investigate, I don't understand how they, like my friend Tony, for example, can just keep making excuses for it. And for any one event, and again, these are not good examples, but Matt, do you really believe that corrupt city council of Philadelphia is going to give money? Okay, I hear you. It's not the great example, but it never happens. I mean, a win in any direction. I shouldn't love talking about it, but it is fascinating to me how nobody sees this. The billionaire philanthropy that is so fake. Billionaire philanthropy, where you could just say to your friend Tony and say, all these hundreds of billions of dollars a month that supposedly are pledged by the Melvin P. and Belinda Gates Foundation. Warren Buffett's given all his money to the Melvin P. Foundation. Bezos and Dr. Evil saying he's giving away all his money. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Tony, have you ever seen in your hometown or just general vicinity, even through Philadelphia, the Jeffrey Lurie, owner of the Philadelphia Eagles Foundation, have you ever seen an example of billionaire philanthropy that actually improves your community? And I bet anybody listening to the sound of my voice has never seen one example. And don't say anything trivial. Don't tell me about a swing set that Jeffrey Lurie put in Philadelphia, and they threw some grass seed and they called it the Jeffrey Lurie Park. Oh, he gave $40,000 to improve some little park where there are three burnout homes in West Philadelphia, West Oak Lane or something. I'm not. They do that trivial shit. They will do that trivial shit. They do just the absolute less than 1% minimum to look legitimate. They need something to point to. That's not philanthropy. That's bullshit. I mean, it even extends down to, I remember having a conversation with one of my dad's friends. Fletcher Cox, the defensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, had gotten at this point a $100 million salary for whatever, 7 years or something, about $100 million. He's still playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. And something like it was on the news that Fletcher Cox gave $7,000 and another Eagle player gave five, and they put 15,000 into this park. And my dad's friend was like, I don't have any money, and I could do that. He just got, I mean, it's not just the billionaires. It seems like if you are a prominent member of any sort of screen reality, it's like a metaphysical rule here that you just literally cannot use your money to help anyone, to really help those in need. This reality and the screen reality allows the trivial. So if I was able to get Jeffrey Lurie's PR person on the phone, oh, he could point me to a few swing sets that he put in, and he probably put in uh, a new kitchen in a homeless shelter. Oh, gee, this is. I don't want to harp on Jeffrey Lurie, but so this is a city, Philadelphia, that again, this guy seems connected through Hollywood or whatever. So it's one of these people that does he even need money? We'll talk about that some other time. But if it is legitimate, or whoever he was, and not connected, he bought the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know, for a dime, way back when, almost 30 years ago. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up. 100 million dollars, $150 million, something like that. It's worth 2 billion plus today. That's what it's worth today. That's not all the jersey revenue, the ticket sales, the parking revenue. This city has made that loathsome creature billions and billions and billions many, many times over. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't even live here. But it's just these creatures all follow the same mold. And Tony was the first one to really put it in a way that it really resonated with my inner knowing. And I still talk about the difference between what he presented as the simultaneous incarnation, in, not a carnation like a flower, incarnation, entity, so a simultaneous entity or incarnation into this. I don't know why that word's not sitting right with me. Is that the right word? It doesn't matter. There's Tony calls them sequentials. Now we always knew that Melvin P was not the same as us. But when Tony started telling me about, yeah, they're on a different, he still will call it a spiritual journey, but they're like really low compared to what we're doing here as Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. It all made sense the way he laid it out. And I'm talking a little bit about it in the book. I think the book now is up to about 85 pages. I'm gonna do everything possible to keep it under 100. I do not want one thing to turn into the next and it gets into a behemoth like the last book. In fact, I'm going to try to cut it back to 75 or 80 pages. And it seemed like I'd be done in 3 weeks. I probably need about 5. But I'll start. It is the summary of everything we've learned. No conspiracy, no bog. The absolute summaries and conclusions, but explained in a way that, say, a fifth grade or sixth grade or seventh grade truther um, would understand, not just the top level old guard. And I think my talent here is talking about complex things in a way people can understand, and that's my primary goal with the book. So that's going pretty well. But I was going to say the way he explained it made perfect sense because we always sense these creatures here, these big fish in a small pond are not the same as you and me, not spiritually the same. Think they're in the same body. They can stub their toe in the same way. But Tony was saying, I just, if anybody, you heard me talk about this in the past, but if anybody's like, Matt, this is new to me, give me another minute. He calls them sequential incarnations of their higher self. It's a lower spiritual entity that is not willing to take the risks, as he would say, that we are, that has uh, information, actually maybe gets or a more direct relationship with its higher self, or more information about its higher self's past lives, or the concept of carrying forth an ancient knowledge, or carrying forth an information of how things work here, where it's basically called it game addicted, material plane 3D reality game addicted. It's the you know what acts on the back of the speedboat addicted, and they don't want to move on. They're terrified to move on and take the leap, as Tony says we have done. It takes guts, he's told me, incredible balls to do spiritually what we have done, come in blind to a place. And Tony, when people talk about the endless tricks and traps and David Icke's Saturn Moon Matrix Recycling Center, he thinks that's all ridiculous. He thinks if you really believe that, you have the power to probably manifest that on yourself, and that does resonate with me. And I read a little bit about that in the book. But the point is, getting back to Jeffrey Lurie and these creeps, um, there's certain ways they can and can't do business here, and those types, it's like those rules can never be broken. And one of the metaphysical rules here, and my friend Tony and your Aunt Jenny just thinks we're crazy for making these sorts of observations. Yet all the facts line up on our side. Every single fact is on our side. That their money cannot be used to truly help the world. Their money and all the billions, per the rules of this reality, and what they are, can never translate into a win, a big win for human, quote, mankind. Now, I say that to my family at the family reunion. I'm just a conspiracy theorist, asshole, jerk. Not wor- but can I point out one thing before you guys send me across the street? Because I refuse to wear my face covering. Every bit of evidence is on my side. See, you're not accepted. This is our biggest frustration in everything. It's like all the evidence. Nobody here, for the course of their natural lifetime, can tell you where they saw one bit of billionaire philanthropy translate into real people that were helped. Again, I don't give a shit about a swing set, or he put in a new microwave in range and a new refrigerator. They do big deal. If Bill Gates still talks about giving all his money away, and 22 or 23 years after the Leslie Stahl 60 Minutes interview where he said he was giving it all away, his net worth is still. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up during this video, because of course that's the type of information that Google just loves to provide. Bill Gates netto, it'll come right up. That's the useless shit that will just. Oh, it was 90 some billion last time I looked. And he's sitting there with a little smirk, like, yeah. Don't get upset at him. He's just a clown role player, and he is spiritually destitute and derelict compared to you. 104.5 billion. It was 90 some billion. 104. I thought, Bill, I'm talking to Bill right now. I can see him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. I thought you were giving all your money away. And then people like my friend Tony, they would come with the excuse, I don't want him staring at me. I'm closing the damn thing down. they would come with the excuses, Matt, it's very difficult for someone with that much money to give it. Oh, no, it's not. No, that's why he has hundreds and thousands of employees in the Melvin P. and Melvin P. Foundation, and that's a $400 million building. If they were really into philanthropy and giving it away, why aren't they in a warehouse or two or three warehouses that they've heated and air conditioned in the Seattle area? What's the $400 million building for? How many people didn't get their their hot dogs and chili sauce and their free meal because the Gates Foundation had to spend $400 million on the building itself? That gives it away because the building itself is so incredible. The Melvin P. and Belinda Foundation building is one of the marquee buildings. You can get a tour bus up to it. No real world philanthropy would put itself at the whole point would be to operate at a very marginal or let's just say a level that would not attract the attention of Robin Leach and the lifestyles of the rich and famous. So it's just the way the reality works. They cannot, it's a rule, they can't use their money for anything worthwhile. Um, and again, just to wrap up with the sequential thing, Tony. Oh, I know what I wanted to say about it. He would say you're called a simultaneous incarnation of higher self, and it's much more spiritually advanced, taking much greater risks, not game addicted. That's why for years we've sensed these creeps are like bound to this place or doomed here, or they have bound to it in a way because they're addicted to it. They're not willing to go to the next level. They're Cuba Gooding Jr. as radio that keeps coming back to the 11th grade. They're Cuba Gooding Jr. as radio and Jared Kushner as radio that keeps coming back to the 11th grade, and they don't move on. It's like, and as when you get to old guard level or people that are truly ready to graduate as we are, and you say, these little pleasures of this world, I mean, really don't appeal to us anymore. I mean, even food. I used to love, um, certain types of food and look forward to going to. I just don't care anymore. I eat between 7 and 1, kind of whatever I want, and if I can, I'll have a big lunch dinner at 1 o'clock, and then I don't eat for 17 or 18 hours because I eat so poorly. It's the only way I can maintain my weight, but it does work. That huge, you can feel fat as hell at 1:15, and then 7 a.m. it all burns back off, and it just the eating little bits is ridiculous. I mean, that just keeps your insulin pumping out, and anyway, but I don't give a shit anymore. A lot of days I'll say I'm going to reward myself. I'm going to go down to Rocco's and get they have great stromboli and they have great meat sauce and a baked ziti with cheese. And I'll say to myself I'm going to do that, but then the time will come like, who cares? Just I'll get a damn chunky soup here. I don't feel like going out anywhere. Like I don't. It's not just that. It's like, okay, so they're game addicted to the pleasures of this place, but if they have memories of past lives or whatever, or I don't exactly. Tony has talked about how in some way they commune with their higher selves. I don't know what that means, but it's like they would get bored. I mean, they would have to get. That's why they get weirder and weirder and more jaded and jaded, and that's why these stories come where Mick Jagger has to lay down with David Bowie. That was a big news story in like the early 80s. Like, but they get jaded even if that story is real or whatever. They once you have supermodel after supermodel, or let's say you remember past lives or it's just you would just get we're tired of it as old souls. We don't know what to call ourselves, but we're like getting the speedboats and then the sex act on the back of the speedboat. That'd be fun for 2 days. We're like, I don't give a shit anymore. Rather just, I don't know, go read a book or something. It's like, who cares? So who would the point, like real souls like you and me are real people, we would think, or I don't, I can put words in your mouth. I know the old guard pretty well, but you were probably thinking like I am, who would give up whatever they're like a spiritual progression? Who would trade the little rewards of this world for something like that? Like who would do that? What kind of low creature would do that? So, Bill Melvin P. His, we were never told about his father, of course. It just seems like, he just was some little guy, some little coder guy, And we just figure, oh, his family has no connections. His father would probably mowed grass at a golf course or something. And well, he just, we know that shady deal where he got the DOS prompt and he gave the $50,000. That guy got the DOS prompt. Of course, IBM couldn't do it themselves. They then of course it's all BS script in my opinion. IBM IBM as the world leading in computers for 40 years up until that point, they were just incapable of doing rudimentary DOS prompt Windows. They had to get a guy. They had to make Microsoft, and Bill had to come in and give them a DOS prompt so they could take an IBM personal computer to market. Ridiculous. And of course, Matt, you're forgetting IBM, the world leader in computers, didn't have time to um, do the chip. So they had to hire or farm it out to this little company that became Intel. And if the point is, if they would have kept all of it in house and just spent 6 more months waiting to compete against Steve Jobs coming out of the garage, because these two guys coming out of a garage were such a huge threat to the world leader of computers for 40 years. If they could have just put 6 more months into it and done it all themselves, then IBM would be as large as Microsoft, IBM, and Intel combined today. Well, how do you, they are, because it all leads up to the same Rockefeller or Getty or Harriman or Vanderbilt or the old money anyway. So it does it is all the same thing in my opinion. I think the old money still exists. So the point is we're talking about Melvin P's father. When you look into it, of course, he has these incredible, creepy connections, high level, insider, obviously, his secret society, all that stuff. But it's funny, through all these years, we looked at Melvin or the regular news and People magazine or whatever looked at Melvin. There was never a mention of his father or the connections. Just like strangely, for years, we didn't know all the weird shit that George um, George H.W. Bush's father or George W. Bush's grandfather was up to. And I'm forgetting his name right now. There's no reason to waste a comment on it. He was Hitler's financier in North America, and he also was responsible or one of the key people in the coup d'etat against America, which I don't know what year that was. It was a famous thing. Look it up. The coup d'etat against America. It's George W. Bush's grandfather or George H.W. Bush's father, Prescott Bush. So let me get this straight. This guy was involved in, this is how artificial everything is, but we're just those types of people. George W. Bush's grandfather, Prescott Bush, was involved in a coup d'etat against America and was Hitler's financier, yet he won his Senate race to become senator, perhaps of Tennessee, and then that paved the way for the political careers of George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush to eventually become president. I mean, if anything, if nothing gives reality away, that does. So it would be very fun to be the guy going up against Prescott Bush at the podium. And yes, this is the debate. We have a full audience here. I'm sure it would be put on the radio maybe before the era of television. And me as Prescott Bush's opponent would say, I just want to say one thing in my opening statement. Then I'm not participating in this debate any longer, and I'm going to get a nice dinner at a steakhouse with my family. I just would like to say that it's on record here in this paperwork, that my competitor here was Hitler's financier in North America. So he was Hitler's key guy. So that shouldn't help him very much. And also, he was involved in a coup d'etat against America. Now, if I still have to present my points, there's something wrong. I could come up here and say I'm a space alien, and after that resume of my opponent here, Prescott Bush, I should win easily. Well, who do you think won? Prescott Bush won. That right there gives away the fake nature of all of politics. You don't need another example. There's no possible way you can believe that's legitimate and believe your local elections are legitimate, but we're just those types of people. All right, I'm sure there's something I missed. Let me collect my thoughts. I'm not sure I completed my thought when I was talking about at least some medical wins or some cures in the last century but in the area of this technology of this century, we get nothing. It was talking about antibiotics, penicillin, etc., bacteria, and this. I don't know. There's a segment of us. Do we still call them our brethren? That just all bacterial infections are fake. Antibiotics are fake. I don't understand this. I just want to make sure I complete this thought. Not just how I saw it really help Puss Puss, but it's helped me 20 times in my life. I mean, Matt, you don't have to convince us of this. This is ridiculous. I mean, doxycycline, ampicillin, penicillin. Pam and I were doing Zara's nails, and she hates it. And Pam, she was letting Pam know, like, this is, you got to stop. And Pam went and grabbed, and she bit down through Pam's thumb. And, I can't do Zara's nails anymore. I've got to take her in. She hates it, and she can be nasty. Um, and it got seriously infected, her thumb or this part of her hand. And, the doctor recommended she had an antibiotic shot, not just taking the pills. And I guess she did take pills for days after that. But I mean, then immediately the hand starts to get better. I mean, look, okay. So the point is twofold. There were medical wins in the last century. There are none this century of any significance. And wanted to point out there's actually a vein of truther that believes that antibiotics are and bacterial infections are fake. And again, like I said, I understand the issues people have with the big V. All right, now what else I wanted to talk about? There's so many things you can mention in terms of if the world were real, what sort of a win would we get? It's not just in the area of medical cures or the government giving money back. If you allow yourself to just think big, there's so many things that should be part of a normal society that people get excited about. I'm not just talking about like movies and TV shows that are good. Just if you think big for just a second, you could come up with things you've maybe never even thought about before. Here's one. I'm not sure if this is in the book. It should be in the If the World Were Real section. Put it in right now and I'll check it. The massive book. It's 750 pages or whatever it's up to. The catalogs the fraud, not the book I'm working on. If the world were real, when somebody reached a certain age, say 70 or 75, the governments, all levels of government, would just leave them alone from a tax perspective. And you could even take this further. So with the electric company, leave them alone. You could implement this and really make, I don't know, see, that's not even a gigantic win. That's just a bone thrown back. But this reality is so artificial, it can never even throw a little bone back. It's like it can't. It's like it would break its contract. It has to give itself away in a ridiculous fashion for people like us to notice. So again, if anything were real, we should just start talking to as many people you can about this, why this doesn't exist. Because I don't know if anybody would disagree with this. At some point, if you just make it even a little bit older age, then it's 75. If you've worked your entire life and you've paid your taxes, your local, your property taxes, your state tax, your federal, and you're under a certain annual income. Say you don't have more than 50,000 or less coming in. 30,000 from Social Security and 20,000 from some little pension. 50,000 or less, news headline. The government is going to let these people alone. No more filing of federal, state, or local taxes. They're just, we will leave you, and you can even expand it to, that the bill, if the bill were to gain traction, if the world were real, this sort of a bill would go through. You can't justify that that tax money is needed if you put a annual income limit on it of say 50,000 or less. If somebody's 75 and they still haven't given all their money away and they're still have 5 businesses with annual net income of 18 to 24 million, well, sure, then they pay fine. Do your taxes like anybody else. But at some point, shouldn't an older individual just be left alone? And I mean property taxes too. No more, nothing shows up in the mail. Just you don't have to worry about that any longer. Is any municipality going to break because they're not getting the, I'm not, again, if it's somebody that's sitting on tons of money or a high net worth individual, fine, you can't justify that. The governments don't need the money anyway. We know that through Fed printing and whatever the trillions they print up off books. But is there anybody, see, what really gives the reality away in many regards is certain things can be proposed like this. And there's not one person you'll ever find other than some, I don't know, some lunatic liberal at some Bard College University or Wesleyan or Vassar or something that would, always going to defend the government and what Joe Biden would want. There's not too many people you're ever going to come across that would take the other side. 99 people we talk to in the park out of 100 would say, yeah, you know what? If they don't make that much and they're over age 70 or 75, they should be left alone across the board. 6 forms of taxes people get when they're a homeowner, for example, school tax, all this stuff. They just must be left alone. Because you could say 99% would be for that, and you could easily show why the governments would not miss that money. I mean, even if you believe everything is real about how CNBC presents the government's finances, they still, on record, admittedly go $1 trillion into debt. So go another, $150 million into debt to just take care of the 75-year-olds you're going to be leaving alone. Is it that big of a deal when you're already putting a trillion plus of new debt up every year? So nobody would disagree with this, yet it never happens. There's many things that you could put forth that nobody would disagree with that will never ever happen because it gives reality itself away. And you can flip flop it and look at it from the other side. There are thousands of things that have gone in over time, probably tens of thousands of things that nobody wants. And I mean nobody wants, but still finds its way in. And the greatest example I always go back to, and there are thousands of these examples, California proposed, I remember researching it, reading about it. I don't know what the law is now. It's been 7 or 8 years since I looked at it, but I'm sure it probably still exists. A 14-year-old legislation in Sacramento, a 14-year-old in California girl could go into a doctor or a clinic and get what people call the morning after pill or some sort of abortion pill without any parental consent. A 14-year-old. And the parents could not be contacted. The doctor did not have the legal right to reach out to the parents or the clinic. Now, who asked for that? Oh, nobody asked for Matt. You don't. And people, Matt, there's a lunatic fringe that really holds sway over Sacramento and the Senate and House and no, no. I don't know how it happens. That's what's strange. There's a lot of strange things about this reality. No, I think the congressman in Sacramento, the capital of California, would know that they're not just going to bow down to this lunatic group because word would get out that, you know, they're allowing 14-year-olds to go get a morning after pill without parental consent when none of the population asked for this or really would want it. Even though California is a bunch of lunatics, still, even for something like this, even those lunatics, 80 to 90% are not going to want this. So this stuff keeps showing up that no one wants, and they still convince us that stuff comes from grassroots. It comes from the population through the legislature. No, things come from the not milk or the screen through the legislature, and somehow the legislature and the news turns around and convinces the people that's what they wanted. And then people like your friends will run scripts like Matt. This lunatic group actually has a lot of lobbying power. Come on, it doesn't work like that. How the mechanism of exactly how the legislature um, just went along with it and bowed down to what the screen or outer ring reality or not milk would want. I don't know, the mechanism on how that happens. Of frequency, download, all we can come up with is things like that. But there are literally thousands and thousands of things in this society where if you talk to anybody like in your family that still has a degree of common sense and you'd say, okay, this exists. The same example again, 14-year-old girls can go get the abortion pill the next. Nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. How did it get here? All right, and I'm sure I should do a whole video just on this. But okay, maybe that's a one-off, but I'm sure, just if I pause this, I could come back with just example after example of all this stuff that exists that nobody wants, yet The people around us believe it's all, oh, legislation comes from grassroots movements. But it comes from what the people want. Nothing comes from what the people want. It all comes down from the screen, the outer ring of the Hellraiser cube. It all comes from Not Milk, and then people are convinced that this is what the world asked for. Okay, it's mind-boggling. What else we have? Oh, I turned on um, the TV last night. I just happened to have what would it be on Channel 6, I guess, ABC here. Haven't seen it for years. Wheel of Fortune, and you know it's still on. Pat Sajak and Vanna White. You know it's still on, but I hadn't seen it, and I had to watch for just I could only take about a minute or so. But what's so strange to me when I was watching for the minute last night. By the way, guys, we're just shooting the shit at this point. I mean, Friday night for a lot of people. I know this is going long. I don't think there's going to be any real serious discussions coming. I don't think there was too many in what had been presented, but thanks for sticking with me this long. It's just, a couple people still are lining up the Pabst blue ribbons, and they might as well go a little bit longer. But um, I was thinking more about not just the chances of Vanna White still turning the letters, but Pat Sajak. Like, what are the chances both of them? See, that's what gives the reality away. And just this one example, Wheel of Fortune, the chances that they both, it's 40 some years, the chances that they're both still there, it's mind boggling. It's like a deal with the devil. It is like a contract of some kind, like the one Bob Dylan he said he made a contract with, he called it the chief commander in some way. One of the two, if anything were real, Vanna would have 30 years into it, or Pat Sajak 38 years into it would have said, I've had enough. Vanna can stay to hold the show together. I just want to relax. Because, guys, you have to think what these people, it's not like he lives next to the studio and he just, has to take his bathrobe off, walk across the street. I mean, if you think about all the stuff that goes into it, where if a Pat Sajak, if anything were real, his bank account, he's worth $150 million, something like whatever it might be. Vanna's worth $100 million. And you just say, I don't want to do this anymore. You got to get to the studio, wherever the studio would be, in Burbank, or there's some sort of a commute, and there's getting the suit and tie on, and there's the traffic jams. And they go on the road. I don't know if they still do this, but I remember Wheel of Fortune used to go on the road. They used to go. Wheel of Fortune is coming to Chicago or the convention center in Las Vegas. It would go on the road, and they travel, and then the audit being the recognized, and that you just I think after 15 years, and you've got a decent bank account, people would be like, this was a good little run. I'm out. To wrap up Wheel of Fortune, um, just let me reiterate this one last time and how unnatural this is. 40 some years, the same host, the same person turning letters. Let's say somebody was there 12 years. I mean, that's a heck of a run for a game show. Say 20 years, over 40 years. I mean, he was saying the same stuff. I'm going back into why I'm re-recording. I got to stop this. But you don't want to hear me talk about Wheel of Fortune for 15 minutes. But he's saying the same stuff. Like, oh, that wheel just missed the trip to Hawaii, or the bankruptcy, or the what? I mean, in the old days, after they won Wheel of Fortune, then they would go to prizes. And they'd have these prizes, and I'd like the lawnmower for 400, and I'll take the trip. You're going to use all your money for the trip to Tahiti. There would be these prizes like behind a curtain or something. They don't do that anymore. They just but 40 now the Wheel of Fortune, like with Jeopardy, phrasing in the form of a question, it's some sort of Not Milk spell. I can't explain it. I don't know why that's so important in Not Milk reality to have a show. Wheel of Fortune, I don't know how they use it in their Knuckle Bones and their Witch's Brew. I don't want to know. It is part of the general spell. I can't talk about it any more intelligently than that. Even phrasing it in the form of a question is, of course it all is. There's no other reason for these shows to exist. All this being said, we didn't even mention, like, there's nothing else that would be more exciting that could be put in a time slot from 1975 until now. Come on. It is so ridiculous, so unnatural. Guys, it would be fun to do a YouTube channel, just walking the streets and just interviewing people. Say, could you tell me why you think the show I don't. I think it would be fun for about a week. Then people would be running the same scripts and saying the same thing. It'd be like, let's just. I need to do that sometime. Probably be cited in some way for solicitation without a permit or something will happen. There was a news article a few months ago, and I wanted to talk about it a few times. I keep forgetting. It's just kind of funny. I was down at City Hall in Philadelphia, filmed it about 2 years ago, and around City Hall they have I don't know what they're brass, I believe. These very strange ornate railings. It's like they have the mud flutters would be very proud. I think they have the windows that are below a little bit below ground, and at least in these little I don't know these little sections where the window is, there's these ornate big heavy brass railings with spikes on them, maybe so the birds don't land on them. I don't know, but they're very old, and apparently the metal value of each is expensive. I mean, you would never think to steal them. The point is somebody stole one, and there are segments all around, and they've got to be heavy. Each to rip one out, this railing, it would have to be 50, 60, 70 pounds. Well, I guess things are the rich are getting richer in this economy, and those that struggle are struggling more. And you have this polarization, of course, with the whole middle will eventually be wiped out. So apparently, Philadelphia is now becoming like those scenes in the Full Monty. Those guys in Liverpool or whatever that end up stripping at the end. By the way, a funny movie. If you haven't seen the Full Monty in 10 or 15 years, I recommend it. Very, very, very funny in many scenes. Um, so now, even in the first scene in Full Monty is they're trying to cut out pipes and sell the scrap metal to get by. Because God, there's no jobs or something. There's a recession in this London or this England town where they are. And so in Philadelphia, somebody comes along, video cameras everywhere, and like with certain tools, rips out rips out big sections of the railing. And okay, well, I want to know, where do you unload that? I don't know where you look in the yellow pages on who's gonna. I mean, okay, there's certain places that can maybe melt down certain types of scrap metal, but once the story goes throughout the entire state of Pennsylvania, that big, this is not, you don't mistake this for the railing coming out of your grandma's guest bedroom in your house. I mean, everybody, if they saw the news article, would know this was ripped off the Philadelphia City Hall. Big, huge, long, heavy. It has like that slight um, greenish color because of its aging, spikes, and I mean, whatever. I thought it was, when I watched the news article or what was presented on Action News Channel 6, I thought it was funny as hell. All right, last topic, total BS screen exercise, but it is fascinating to me how Star Wars is made bad on purpose. The number one movie franchise of all time is made bad on purpose. And we talked about in the past. I can't talk about that enough. It is the most fascinating thing in the world to me. It's not a topic of conversation for everybody, but there is some new observations, some new things to add, and we'll relate it into this Mandalorian. This Mandalorian season 3, episode 1 apparently has come out, and the reviewers, it all happens the same way every time. The reviewers are all up in arms already. Now, I haven't seen that many, and it just came out. I don't watch The Mandalorian. I will tell you about the first episode I watched of season 1, how horrible it was. And this is supposed to be the good Star Wars series. But I just saw some people. Maybe, Matt, it's going to show you, YouTube's going to show you the people bitching about The Mandalorian before anybody's praising it, because it knows that's what you want to see. Probably. Hold on. Anyway, I did watch one full video about somebody complaining, and it does look bad. I saw the first Mandalorian because everybody talked it up as to how great it was, when all the others were just some of the worst series of all time. The Book of Boba Fett is apparently one of the worst series of all time, not just in Star Wars, throughout all of movie and TV history. So I watched the first Mandalorian, and it just was, this is what's supposed to be good. It was horrible. It defied common sense. At one point, I think in the first episode, the Mandalorian climbs a Jawa, whatever, I was in a speeder. They're the Jawa crawler, the giant Jawa city that crawls around, that millions of little things live in, and a Jawa just opens up. I think shoots him. He falls back 30 feet and lands in that would kill him right there. He attacks the Jawa if they don't shoot him, they have they Jawas do have guns. I mean, I don't. He falls back, lands in the dirt. The Jawa crawler keeps going, and that. So the Mandalorian should be one half of one episode. He should be dead in the first one. I turned it off, and I just can't watch this. And it wasn't good up until then. And the first 20 minutes seemed bad, even on its own. So they've destroyed every single part, with one exception. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Um, Andor. Okay, Andor is a pretty good series. And the one of the few good movies that Disney has made of Star Wars is Rogue One. Is is it the Andor? It's the Andor story after Andor. Andor is a prequel to the movie Rogue One. Both are very, very solid. Is it the first Star Wars from 1977? No, but it's a good movie. Andor is very good, solid. Proves right there they know how to make good movies and good TV shows. Of course, they can make it excellent whenever they want. It's made bad on purpose. So the theory is, why are they ruining all these other facets of Star Wars when they're not ruining Andor or Rogue One? And I think, I'm getting close, or we're getting close with the people that have shared comments or helped me on this as to what's going on here. So, what's being destroyed is the mystical side of Star Wars, the side that is very uplifting, that in a way tells us about ourselves. You know, um, we're in these bodies in this human experience. There's governors on us. Whatever powers we had in the past of psychic, or they say at some point we were supposed to, or we had the ability to communicate without talking, or get our energy from the sun. All these things that we've heard, there is some truth, or a little bit of truth to a lot of that. That each iteration of the human, what they call us now Homo sapiens sapien, they've added a double sapien for the modern dummy, and be real worried if they add a third sapien. If it's Homo sapiens sapiens sapien, then I don't know if we can come. We're not that. We've broken free from that. Okay, that's what the regular dummy down the street is. What they call us. But they've put governors, or maybe in terms of what we perceive through the senses, it gets lower and lower. And I, I'm opening up a whole can of worms here. Well, who did that, Matt? Over what time? Was it the Anunnaki that did that? And were we slaves thousands of years? I don't want to get into all that. I don't think any of that matters in terms of the types of where we're going right now, or at least the people here are discovering our own true nature. Our past really doesn't matter at this point. It's what we do now moving forward. But um, the point is, in terms of all the wonderful parts of Star Wars had to do with the mystical side, the magical side, for lack of better words, the Force, the sixth sense. Luke rejects the technology. In 1977, they fly down into that damn cavern, and at the end, I mean, I tell you, the not milk screen didn't like this one damn bit. Remember, I've talked about this recently. Luke's like, Luke, you're switching off your targeting computer. The VR headset comes, and Luke's like, I don't want this. He senses that only through feel is he going to be able to do it, and he rejects the technology. He rejects the computer, and is that by itself why the Star Wars being just that one scene? No, but it hates that, of course. How that ever got out? I mean, there's talk about that some other time. Do they have to put it out and then work to destroy it? Did it get out by accident? We'll talk about that some other time. But the mystical part of Star Wars and the parts that tell us about ourselves, all that is being destroyed on purpose. And the Andor vein is being carried forward, or the Rogue One. And that is not Star Wars. There is no Jedi in those stories. It's dark. It's communities repressed by the Empire. There is no Jedi forces. There is no may the Force be with you. In fact, when you watch Andor, as good as it is, the first few episodes are pretty lame. It actually gets better over time. They remind you, they have to remind you it's Star Wars through every once in a while a TIE fighter will fly by, and you'll oh, that right, I forgot, this is Star Wars. They have to remind you it's not Star Wars. That's why it's good. It's not Star Wars. I think I remember talking about this, so I'll shut up. One of these cruisers flies overhead. It's not Star Wars. It shows people in prisons. It shows very dark situations. It shows indigenous peoples being repressed. There's no uplifting side to it at all. And that's what they will move forward with. And they will evolve Star Wars, in my opinion. It will get good again, but using this vein of it. You will be so disgusted with all what they did to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you just won't even want them to go there anymore. And in terms of, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I'm pretty sure this is how the Not Milk works in this regard. In terms of, we are too quick to say, and you think I'm going where I'm going every single time and being repetitive. In a way, I am, but I'll get off this as soon as possible. Say people in on it. So in the old days, of course, Kathleen Kennedy, we all see she has ruined Star Wars. If anything were real, she would have been replaced and fired after the first of the new Star Wars, which was The Force Awakens in 2015. What the Not Milk does, that almost no one is in on it. I am convinced this is how it works, and Star Wars is a good example to show how this works. It it puts people in positions that will fail. All the wokeness, all the social justice warrior stuff, and women are Mary Sues, and the men are always emasculated, and the men are buffoons, and Velma, and they make Fred out to be, is that his name? The blonde-haired guy, white guy in the old Scooby-Doo. He is just a complete buffoon, and all these themes that keep coming and coming. It's not the people producing it or directing it, or the Kathleen Kennedys or Ryan Johnsons, or even Jar Jar Abrams, which I this is what nerdrotic calls them. I haven't watched those comic book reviewers of those guys for a long time. I mean, they disappoint me. They never ever leave their scripts. They never progress. I don't expect them to be full-fledged truth people like us, but they never see outside of their little box. But I will continue to take the Jar Jar Abrams away for J.J. Abrams. That was pretty good. So the Not Milk doesn't put people in place that just know we're out to destroy it and they know what's going on. The Not Milk at the screen level, the outer ring wants to destroy it. No, because it doesn't. Whatever it is, some people it's an AI or it's like Satan or whatever it is to corrupt and just to remove a human being from understanding itself, so we don't do what we're supposed to do in this life. It puts people into positions of power. Somehow it sees to this, knowing they will push their woke, or knowing they can't help but push their own ridiculous radical values. The people pushing it is being destroyed on purpose, but those on the ground, like Ryan Johnson, isn't in on it. He's not trying to destroy it. By putting Ryan Johnson in charge of the second Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens, the second one recently, it was I don't even know. I turned them all off. They're so horrible. The one after The Force Awakens, 2018, was Ryan Johnson was responsible. Um, it put a failure in so it would fail. See, Ryan Johnson did his best. He's just a buffoon. He's a moron. He's probably incapable of putting anything. He's not the same spiritual entity as you and me. He can't put anything wonderful and creative out. The Not knows this. Now, why what does the CEO Bob Iger, so what does he what does he know in terms of back meetings with Snoke, or how the reality really works? Why doesn't he step in and say, this, you're producing shit, we can't go out with this? At some point somebody knows something. But in terms of the people on the ground, like even Kathleen Kennedy, I don't think she would, if you asked her, Kathleen, come over here. Are you talking to me? Yeah, Kathleen, come over here. I want to talk to you. Why are you ruining Star Wars on purpose? We know you are. Just come on, just tell me. I won't tell the channel. She wouldn't have any idea what we're talking about. I think this is how the not now everyone's. I might get that at that level wrong, but the people that do it on the ground, they're trying their best. It's just the not milk screen puts in a failure, knowing like if they wanted murals painted in the Capitol building, excuse me, it would hire me. You've seen my drawings. I'm one of the worst drawers of all time. It would hire me, and I would do absolute shit. I'd be trying my best, and maybe I was always told I was an artist, and I believed I was an artist. These people believe they're movie producers and writers. It would be absolute shit, but I wouldn't be like in on it, trying to make the mural bad. I'm trying to do my best. I'm just not capable of it. I think that's how the Not Nook does business regarding like art, and movies and TV shows are under that art category. Not Milk screen level is absolutely out to destroy it, but the people putting it out are not. You just put in incompetence, and that is actually the case. I think we could do a lot of videos on this theme, because that would be the case with senators elected to. We think, oh, they're all in on it. Maybe somebody that's been around there for 30 some years, like a Chuck Schumer, he kind of knows how things work. He obviously knows that the higher level elections are, they don't, they're farce. It's not real. He knows, but he doesn't. A guy like Chuck Schumer, in my opinion, doesn't know as much about reality as we do. He knows his little bucket or segment. But the others that go in, congressmen and the U.S. senators, um, they're incapable of affecting change. They're morons and buffoons and incompetent, inept. This is why they succeed into positions of power. They go into the position, maybe many congressmen at the lower levels, really trying to help, really trying to do their best, but they're just not capable of it. They don't know to go about it, and that's why they're allowed to succeed. That's why somebody like you, somebody like me, with a little bit of power, a little bit of money going into getting a certain audience, or we could make waves. Okay, this is why we will never be able to. Not that I'm running for Congress, obviously, but we will never be allowed to succeed in certain areas. A real person will never find its way up past a certain level of management in Disney, or past a certain lower level political office, a real person, because that real person would then become too dangerous to the not milk system. Somehow it'll see to it so they never succeed. And if you think, anybody on the Larry Silverstein team of consultants watching this saying that's how you guys justify your pathetic lives. You guys, Matt, you can't succeed. You guys can't succeed. So you just say we would succeed, but the not milk doesn't let us succeed. No, as I've said many times, we're not saying that stuff to make me feel better. That is how it works. Not sure about it? Make me U.S. Senator. See what happens. See what happens. Matt, you'd be dearly plauded, my friend. Probably. But it would be fun while it lasts. Thanks for listening.